Hello there everyone, and welcome back to yet another beautiful video. I'm gonna save my little spiel till the end as a sort of update on my life. But for now, I say let's just get right into the designer I would like to talk about today.
And we don't like federal agents,
and that is PHS, or Paul Harnden Shoemakers. And excuse my pronunciation of his middle name, I am not exactly sure how to say that. He is a Canadian-born designer who eventually moved to the UK. And this is sort of where he started his creative ventures. Of course, as it says in the name of his brand, it started off with him making very antique-looking shoes. These shoes have an emphasis, once again, on craftsmanship, as this is in the avant-garde artisanal category. And a lot of people could compare his work to something closer to Carte Dime, Carol Christian Powell, John Alexander Skelton. So right away we have someone who puts a lot of emphasis into his ideas and really focuses on details. We see this later on as well when he gets into clothing. Something that was stated in an interview later on in his life is that he starts by looking at the material before even going to a design. So he will go to his mills in the UK and have them come out with blankets of prototypes. What this is there will be the sewing mills who will come and slowly create his sort of material he needs, his twill. This will be on a small blanket with multiple different colorways that he could use. From there, he said himself, he kind of just looks and he sees the one color that reaches out to him, and from there he goes into making. Of course, that is a later on interview in his life, going back to his transition into clothing. In the early 2000s, he decided to start clothing, as everything he was inspired by was antique, old, and this was a perfect time to move into a newly emerging market. And who better to start with but his co-partner Elena Dawson. They both worked rigorously to continue this sort of idea of craftsmanship and continued on to only supply a select few retailers to continue this elusiveness of the clothing. Later on, Elena Dawson, who did work a lot on the creative and business side, as well as all conceptual ideas for the brand, did her own thing, as Paul Harnden worked by himself. This, I feel, only works the best in a sort of avant-garde environment where even though ideas can be similar, you really need to express yourself. And in the end, both designers became extremely successful in their niche. So yeah, as I said earlier, Paul Harnden still to this day works with the mills around where he is in the seaside of London. And if you want to search up articles about him, a lot of things will say along the lines of him being an elusive designer in the seaside, and it is true. He lives a very obscure, secluded life in the English seaside, and he only works very closely with a few mills, and once again only supplies a few retailers. And it all goes into this sort of, once again, attention to detail, craftsmanship, and love of the craft. What better way to continue talking about him than showing off one of his pieces? As usual, when I like to go through these sort of history videos, I will show off something at the end. And in my hands here, we have a beautiful, beautiful linen twill blazer from Paul Harnden. The materials on the inside are 100% linen, 100% cotton. They must be hand washed. And from the details of the construction to everything else, you can understand his ideas and his sort of love of this antique feeling of clothing. even stating himself that most of his inspiration comes from archive books he would look through dealing with clothing all the way back to 1778. Once again, the clothing, the detail, the craftsmanship, all absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, and that is just a quick summary, once again, of this designer that I wanted to show off. I will probably talk about Elena Dawson in another video, as it's only fitting to continue from there. Now, when it comes to my actual life that involves me, I, of course, always say I will come back to YouTube, and then I get distracted with something else, which is either school, moving, working on clothing, now working in general. But I have moved from my college. I am now in New York City, and I am working with a company, and I'm also creating my own line of clothing, which really I prefer over the fashion school route that I was taking before. Yes, fashion school is helpful. I definitely did learn things, yet I felt it was not my pace. I have always been very big on tasks and problem solving at my own level. And school wasn't something that fit right with me when it comes to those aspects. And that leads into what I'm doing now, which is taking a quick break from that and working on Rao, which is the brand based off of my maiden name that I had created. What's really amazing is the evolution of Rao that's happened. I've obviously had the 2 fashion shows in Singapore, and even though I would like to say those were taken very seriously, which they were, the quality that I am producing now is something that I could have never dreamed of. I was taking photos last night for, like, official photos for the clothing, and I almost had a tear to my eye when I set up my one piece of clothing that was the skirt with the shirt. It was just phenomenal, and I will link all those resources if you guys want to check it out yourself below. And then most importantly, I have an exhibition during New York Fashion Week through September 11th in collaboration with A3G Showroom and Zam Barrett, who is a New York-based artisanal avant-garde designer. He is hosting an exhibition to show off new and upcoming avant-garde designers, and I will be there. A few other extremely talented people will be there. If you can't come in person, I beg you, please check out the Instagram. Please just give everyone a look and support, because all the effort we're all putting in is phenomenal, and it really is bringing new life to a scene that had unfortunately died a few years ago in New York. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching this video. My goal, even though I always say this, is probably from now on I'm gonna record 1 or 2 videos on my weekend, which is like a Thursday, Friday because of work, and release one that day and release another during the week. Hopefully I can come back to this. The issue has never been lack of creative ideas or lack of motivation to record, but more just trying to understand who I am creatively and how I want to portray myself online while still pushing my ideas. I feel I'm still getting there. It's always a work in progress, but as always, thank you so much for watching. That's not how it goes. As always, have an amazing day.